Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our last panel of this virtual State of the Industry. I'm pleased to close out the show with two true leaders in the sports space. We have Rick Welts, President and COO of the Golden State Warriors, and Al Guido, President of the San Francisco 49ers and CEO of Elevate Sports Ventures. Rick and Al, thanks for taking some time today to join us from your homes. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, Taylor.
Pleasure, Taylor. Thanks for having us on.
Obviously, we're sitting here in unprecedented times. That's, I think, been the word that's been used the most these last 2 days at our conference. I'm curious, guys, what does your day-to-day look like right now? You run two major franchises. You have all sorts of tentacles spread out across the sports industry as real leaders. Do you even have such a thing as a day-to-day? It's such a fluid situation. I'm curious how you're spending your time and staying on top of things. Al, I'll start with you, and then Rick will move over to you.
No problem, Taylor. Well, look, it's a lot of conversations just like this on video with our staff daily. And, when this all obviously happened, I think everyone's immediate concern goes to their people, their employees, their families. For me, even personal, I got family members who work in the health industry or nurses that show up and take care of these folks every day. And my brother who works at a small business that got furloughed. And so that's the immediate reaction from all of us is how do we take care of our people and what does it mean? And then ultimately we dive into the business and we all are starting to do those contingency plans. Obviously in the NFL, we have not been hit by this to date. And, my heart and sympathies and thoughts go out to Rick and everybody else who has been, and they've had to cancel games, and it was a fluid process very much for them. And look, I'm lucky to have this guy in my market as a tremendous leader to see all the things that he's doing with his franchise as we prepare to launch our NFL season. The only thing that's really been impacted for us is probably some of these off-season training camps. Obviously the NFL draft got moved out of Vegas, but we're still going to hold the draft in a virtual way later this April. So for right now, it's a lot of what we're doing here today.
Rick, your day-to-day?
Well, we've had an interesting vantage point being in San Francisco, so feeling very much like this has been ground zero for what a lot of the country is now experiencing or is going to experience over the next few weeks. So we had actually put in place a mandatory work-at-home policy several days before San Francisco shelter in place. And I got to tell you, it's actually, from a business standpoint, it's a little bit exhilarating. We had set up a structure where standing meetings continued. We added a COVID-19 task force meeting every morning. We've added a couple additional management meetings that we do every day. We're communicating out at the end of the day to all of our employees events that happened that day. We've done our virtual town halls where every one of our employees have participated and brought our team doctor in to kind of add some facts to a little of the social media hysteria that people were hearing, to kind of give them some comfort that this is going to pass. So, from a business standpoint, I actually think there's going to be some good outcomes. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but I think there will be a silver lining to us getting to the other side of this.
And that's actually a perfect segue. I was going to talk about that a little later, but let's dive into it now since you brought it up, Rick. The silver linings out of all this, that's been a big theme for this virtual State of the Industry conference we've done. Definitely, it's a serious time. For some people, it's a really scary time. I'm kind of with you, Rick. I'm here in New York City, and it's really unprecedented to see no cars or people in Times Square. And so, yes, it's really serious, and people need to take care of themselves. But every time there's change, there's opportunity. Can you talk to us about some of the silver linings you see for sports industry, for businesses coming out of this?
Yeah, well, I think we've discovered there's a new way to work, in our industry. This is actually working. I don't think I envision us going to an all virtual workforce, but at the same time, I think in a part of the country that's very difficult to maneuver in public transportation in the best of times, it's going to give us some clues about a better way to manage our workforce. And then, right from the beginning, I think our Commissioner Adam Silver has been awesome. I mean, it was the first one to be put on the firing line to have to make a big decision about postponing our season. And I think everything he's done in interacting with team presidents and owners of our league has been a challenge from day one. Like, let's take this as an opportunity to rethink the way we've done things. Let's get creative and use some real innovation on how we use this time to stay connected to our fan bases. And I think we're doing that. There'll be a lot of examples that we could go through over the course of this hour, but I do think we're using this time to look at how to create additional connections with the people that are missing our sporting world. And I think it's working in a really interesting way right now.
And Al, same question to you about silver linings.
I'd echo what Rick said. I think this works. I mean, we found a way to work, and I think Americans and everybody in the working for world, right? We adapt to change, and if you look at any crisis in America, we always find a way to come out of this. And when you come out of it, you might come out of it with new habits. You might come out of it with new ideas, tons of innovation. I agree. Like, it's been fascinating to be able to continue to keep things operating in this virtual world. And thankfully, obviously, all these technology companies have come so far with us. Now the next question is, what are we going to be doing on the content front? Rick and I, as we were getting on this call we were talking a little bit around what the Wizards were doing, streaming virtual games on their content platforms. I think there's a number of different things that frankly might come out of this, Taylor. But look, I'm looking forward, just like everybody else. I think the one piece that we're all missing, right, that's unique to sports is the ability to share it with others in person. And as much as I've enjoyed this and learned from it, I am really, truly looking forward to getting back and seeing all those people who I love in the office, and seeing those people in Rick's arena and seeing them in my stadium. And no one knows when that's going to happen, but I really do think that, when sports comes back, it's going to be a tremendous moment in this country. Again, if you look back over time, whether it's 2011 and George Bush on the mound at Yankee Stadium, I don't know what that moment's going to be, but I know that we have tremendous leaders in sports, and Rick mentioned Adam and team. I can't wait till those moments happen in all of these arenas, ballparks, and stadiums around the country, because I think it's going to be super powerful.
I was thinking about that the other day when George Bush threw that strike down the middle of Yankee Stadium. You just never forget that. I'm so glad it played out like that. And Rick, I was going to go back to something Al mentioned, which was Adam Silver's role in all of this. For me, obviously, we're involved in the sports industry, so we're really in tune with what's going on. But I felt like things got really serious and people started taking this really seriously when Adam Silver stood up and said, NBA games are canceled. This thing is real. We need to kind of step up here. I think that was really good leadership in an uncertain time. Do you envision that kind of being a parallel to the other side of this when we do go back and sports are live again? And in the same way sports sent a message to say, hey, take this seriously, can sports kind of send a similar healing message in parallel, if that makes sense? Because I think there's a pattern going on here. I'm curious about your view of that.
No, listen, that's a great observation. That's certainly the hope. And I think that's part of the challenge, what we're all talking about right now. How can sports play that role? How can sports be, the place where people feel safe gathering in large numbers again? And I do think this is, a little different than what we've seen in the past, because I think there's going to be a moment in time when the medical world tells us it's okay to resume normal life. I think there's a second psychological part of it, though, is when people are truly going to feel comfortable and safe doing that. And sports has to be the vehicle for that. Sports has to be the place that we can finally say things are okay. And I love the way Al described post 9/11, right? The hope is we can do that. But I do think we have a little more of a challenge with the psychological part of it, just because am I really going to be comfortable putting myself in that environment with 18,000 other people at Chase Center to go watch a game? And there's a little bit of unknown there. We've been talking to some psychologists about that. And I'm not sure that those two things will happen at the same time, when the medical community says yes, and when people will automatically feel comfortable to do that. But we can play that role. We always do. Like that's where we can come together in a way that we don't do in any other form of our society.
Mm. Yeah, and Rick, speaking of Chase Center, obviously it's a beautiful new arena in San Francisco, recently opened up. It's one of the newer facilities out there in sports now. It's interesting you mentioned you're talking to psychologists. I was going to ask you, how do you guys possibly try to react to this and say, hey, we have this great new arena. It was a massive project. It's ready to go. It's had games in it, but now the sports industry is disrupted. How do you plan ahead as a business, as hosts of human beings? How is that process going? And I want to build on the psychologist remarks. I think that's interesting.
Well, there is no game plan for this, right? Nobody wrote the game plan for what you do here. So I think the good news, one of the encouraging things, obviously we host a lot of things other than NBA basketball and have lost many concerts that Live Nation or AEG or local promoters had booked into our building. The good news, I think, for us, gives me a little hope, is that those are all being rebooked for August, for September, for October. So, I think the entertainment community has put a little bit of a stake in the ground that things are going to be okay by the time the NFL season opens, or by the time that we're getting through the end of summer. So there's some hope there. We'd already had to implement some different ways that we were taking care of the building. The biggest problem we were having in the last 2 or 3 Warriors games were people were stealing the Purell bottles out of the restrooms. That's a problem we hadn't had before. But there was already a new normal of rubbing, cleaning every surface, cleaning every handle many times a game. We shifted staff to do things like that. I heard Mark Cuban, maybe not on your air today, but Mark talk about, should we be taking the temperature of every fan who's coming in, since we can do that from a technology standpoint very seamlessly. I don't know. There's going to be new protocols. There's going to be, just like post 9/11, we had new protocols for entering stadiums and things like that. I'm sure we'll have new protocols, and I'm sure we'll have new ways we're taking care of our facilities to make sure that we're doing everything humanly possible to make sure they're as safe as they can be. So the answer is, I don't know. We're writing the game plan as events are unfolding and trying to react to the best information that we have.
Yeah, I think that's the key here, guys. I mean, this chat is called Leadership in Unprecedented Times. I think it's one of the big trends is it's fair for you guys to be saying, I don't know right now, because everyone's in this together and communicating. And Al, kind of same question to you, and I imagine it might ultimately end in I don't know, we're looking at the data, we're looking at strategies, but how do you see potential fan engagement, fan experiences at venues changing, whether it's at Levi's or other sports throughout the world? Because this will change everyone who has to gather in a group for any reason.
Yeah, the answer is exactly what Rick said, which is I don't know. And all we can really do, I'm encouraged, what Rick's doing, we're doing on our side with doctors. I mean, we're just all trying to learn, get smart and understand and, not panic. I think, look, it's easy to lead when everything is up and to the right. And at times like this, I think being calm, trying to get educated. Look, what Steph Curry, his player, did yesterday, just trying to get that message out, get people aware of what's going on. We were obviously one of the first states to do shelter at home. And I sent it to my friends back east because they were like, what does this mean? I said, guys, it's not that bad. We're able to get our work done. I'm able to go to the grocery store. I get to hang out with my kids more than I normally would. So I don't know, Taylor, what's going to happen when we come back. I think as time has gone on here, we've learned a lot more and people have become, at peace about it. And if you just, if you're in the grocery markets now, it's a little bit different than it was a week ago, and it'll be different a week from now and a month from now. And Rick's right. A couple entertainment platforms have put their stake in the ground as to when they want to come back. Obviously we hope we don't have to postpone or cancel any NFL football games. The truth is, even if we have them, I don't know what that will look like. And to Rick's point, I think the one thing we all don't know, we have obviously a ton of season ticket holders. We're lucky in that way. We have a tremendous fan base. We don't know what, individual tickets will go on sale. We don't know from a sponsorship department what marketing spends will look like. But what I would say is, this is where I'm like unbelievably optimistic. If you look at certain people that are starting to gauge what ratings might be, they might be 20 to 25% higher than they were before we left, right? If you look at stadium investment, if you, after 2008 crisis, ultimately there was probably $20 billion spent. Right now, there's projects underway that are upwards of $15 to $20 billion. If you just look at the MLS, you got multiple stadiums that are going to be under construction here in the next 2 years. You got labor peace at a number of our different teams, right? The NFL now has labor peace, the NBA, right? The WNBA, the NHL. I mean, so I think the outlook, frankly, is tremendous. But the truth is, we do need our leaders in the medical society, right, to give us that guidance that we all need. And then as soon as we have that guidance, we'll go and act. We know how to put on events. We all do a tremendous job in this industry. We'll learn whatever the new requirements are. But I'm confident that in the next couple months, or at least I'm hopeful, I should say, in the next couple months, that we'll get that guidance and we'll be able to put on a great show for whatever that means. If that means a reduced arena, if that means a reduced stadium, if that means everybody, I'm still confident that that moment in time will be really powerful for this country.
And to build on that, thank you, Al. Rick, there's been some ideas and headlines, and there's headlines every day now, certainly, but just about like doing a mid-season tournament in Vegas to get some sort of NBA presence back. And a couple hours ago on this conference we're on a show, Cuban brought up the idea of playing games in front of fans or in front of stands with no fans in it, just to give people something to cheer for remotely. I think that sounds great on paper, and if that can be done, that'd be fantastic. But that will not be a normal thing going forward in 2021, 2022. We'd have to hope. So my question to you, Rick, is do you see this as an opportunity to kind of reset anything we're currently doing and maybe adjust the season or adjust how programming is created or anything along those lines, where it's just, this is an opportunity to kind of hit pause on a lot of the processes we typically go through as a sports industry every year, and then just kind of say, look, what should we reset, if anything? So that's always a healthy thing for a business to do.
Well, I think there's the short term and the long term. There are a lot of questions in there, but I'll relay, if you'll remember, like I had a meeting with the mayor of San Francisco the morning, a Wednesday 2 weeks ago, where we had the discussion, and she said, I'm going to have to close the city down, and it means you're not going to be able to have live audiences at your games. And I had to go from there to, with our general manager, Bob Myers, go meet with our team in the locker room after the practice that day and say, guys, like, we're playing tomorrow night, but we're going to be playing in an arena that has no fans in it. And the looks on our players' faces were like, what? Like, how in the world is that going to work? And it was really quiet for quite a while. And then I think Steph Curry said, can we bring our own playlist? We can play our own music. I said, yes, you can play your own music. But so we were prepared to do it. But then that night, of course, is when we had the two incidents at two of our games, and Adam had to suspend the season. So we never had that, but we were ready. We were ready to go, and it would work, but it's not a great long-term solution, especially if you listen to LeBron James, who really doesn't like the idea of playing without fans. But it could happen. But I think also, one of the other questions you had in there is, like, we are doing a lot of different kind of programming. Like, it's causing us, some stuff you may consider silly. Our Warriors Basketball Academy teaches more kids how to play basketball than any other NBA team. We're doing, now scheduled online drills for specific skills that we're putting out there. Even our Warriors dance team is running, dance classes online, which is a program we'd never done. Some of our players have been creating some short form programming, and I think that's kind of exciting. In our TikTok world, we know that not all 19-year-olds want to consume a 2-hour NBA basketball game from beginning to end. Are there other ways we could present our game that's going to reach audiences that just aren't going to sit in front of a television set for an entire broadcast? So I think again, the things that are going to come out of this has changed our thinking a little bit about what our programming could look like. And, our live game programming will always aggregate the largest audiences that can be aggregated. That's why sports is always so valuable to advertisers who want to aggregate lots of people at one time live. Nothing like sports to do that, but we're going to need to supplement that with a lot of other programming that maybe speaks more directly to different audiences.
And thank you, Rick. Al, to build on that, question I have for you is, does this reposition sports in society? Period, end question. And just to quickly add to that simple question, probably a complex answer, 49ers, in my opinion, have always been really out in front of engaging their community and going beyond the programming that we talked about with Rick. Certainly the programming can be adjusted. There's new opportunities there, but beyond the 8 Sunday home games you guys have, or the standard schedule, I'm thinking of shout out to Jesse Lovejoy on your team, Al, who runs the STEM program for the 49ers. And like Rick was saying, Warriors help a ton of people play basketball. 49ers with Jesse's program and the STEM education they do help a ton of students kind of use sports as a catalyst to learn STEM skills. Well, it feels like to me there's just a great opportunity to do even more of that now, where people really rely on sports and realize how much their emotions are tied to it. I know it's early, but have you given time to think about doing even more of those types of programs and just further pushing into that direction?
There's no question, Taylor. I would say, one, it solidifies our place, right? In case we didn't know how important sports were in this country, we certainly know now when it's not on television, right? It is the escape for a lot of us, right? It's the excitement. I mean, we always joked before, there was no other place where in 5 seconds I could be best friends with an immediate stranger. I mean, it just doesn't happen in our society. And I do think, there's a number of teams who do a fantastic job on this front anyway. We always say we're more than what we do, and certainly in the NFL, than what we do on Thursdays, Sundays, and Monday nights. Our players are more than that. They care about more than just football, right? And you've seen athletes and teams and leagues be tremendous members of their community and giving back. And I think this is a time where every company, right, should use their brand, amplify a message, give back to a community that's hurting in whatever way you possibly can. And so for us, obviously, that's in a lot of the education world. We spend roughly $5 million a year educating 60,000 kids through a STEAM curriculum program at Levi's Stadium. We have 8 full-time teachers there. And the interesting part of that is, in days of running a sports team, I would have never had to think about how do we get our curriculum that we teach every day online, and because we had to shut down that program. And so, I think the private sector, and I consider us the private sector, has really stepped up in this time of need. I mean, if you think about what Elon Musk has done at Tesla in our community, right? Some of what these other companies are doing around the world, I don't view sports teams as any different. Frankly, I view us as using the leverage that we have, using the brand, using the followers to get that message out, to be a change agent for whatever it is that change is going to be. And so, look, we're blessed here at the York family. They do a tremendous job in the community year round. We've been the ESPN Sports Humanitarian Team of the Year for a lot of the education platforms. I think what's next, Taylor, is how do we join with our leagues and our partners? What's going to happen coming out of this? Who's going to be in the most need? There's going to be a lot of people that lose their jobs, right? There's going to be a number of different programs that change. What foundations are going to rise up to make sure that we take care of those people? I know you said Mark Cuban was talking about the stimulus package and what that means for small businesses, but this might take some time to come back. And what do us as a team and or a league, what are we willing to do on that front to help those most in need coming out of this crisis?
Rick, would you build on any of that? Because I think it's a great line of thought to follow, just how you ultimately engage the community and do more than host 41 home games a year or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I love what Al said in terms of it. I'm not sure we'll have a new place, but it reaffirms the place that sports does have in society. I grew up in Seattle, First pro team we had there was Seattle Supersonics. Going to Sonics games was the currency. Going to sporting events, that's what my dad and I did. That was the currency of our conversations. And I fell in love with the game, but just as much, I saw what it meant to the city of Seattle to have a professional sports team they'd never had before. It was such a sense of pride in our community and brought so many people together that, if anything, that's what really inspired me to try to follow a career in sports. And these buildings that we create are definitely town halls. Like, I love asking, 19 out of 20 people can answer this question, which is, what was the first concert you saw and where were you when you saw it? 19 out of 20 people, I guarantee you, if you go around the room, people can tell you that. And it's because these things are about places that create memories of a lifetime, right? The experiences we have in stadiums and arenas actually help define our lives and really are such integral parts of our existence as human beings that, it's inspiring. And it's why it's such a privilege to work in this industry, because it really does make a difference. Yeah, we can argue about salary caps and should sports be getting the attention it gets. But at the end of the day, these buildings that we create and the things that happen there create lifetime memories. And, that's why, both of us, Al, and we've each had an opportunity to build from scratch one of these things that's going to live for decades to come and influence literally generations of families in our communities over as far in the future as we can see. So, I get almost kind of emotional about it, because I really do think that we have such a special place here and such a special opportunity coming out of a crisis like this. Sports is always the crossroads of these conversations of the social issues of our time, right? And this is just the next one. And we have an opportunity not only by team and by league, but I think one thing that's been interesting in this experience is the level of communication between the leagues that's been going on. I could see something emerging out of this that was more than a one league initiative, because, the leadership of all of our leagues has been I had more conversations with Gary Bettman, the commissioner of hockey, than I did with Adam Silver, the commissioner of basketball, as we were leading up to where we are right now. And, we feel a sense of community amongst all of us in the sports world that I think has an opportunity to really shine as we come out of this on the other end.
And guys, to switch gears a little bit, looking at some questions from the audience, and thank you, everyone. There's a lot of good questions in here. A theme is, this is a tough time for people to be looking for jobs and to be trying to work in sports. But what advice would you give to people who want to, maybe they're finishing up a sports management program or coming out of college soon? What advice would you give, Al, I'll start with you, to any recent graduates or anyone who, wants to work for the Niners or any other sports entity out there right now?
Look, stay the course. We're going to be back playing sports. I believe we're going to, certainly going to be back playing in front of fans. We're all going to need tremendous talent and individuals to run our organizations. And I really don't think you ever stop looking for the best talent out there. And there's tremendous opportunity in this industry. Look, I got out of college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I took a $6 an hour telemarketing job, out of the basement of the Philadelphia Spectrum. And what I would say is, reach out to people like myself, reach out to people like Rick. Obviously, continue to apply for those jobs. We're not going to stop hiring when this thing comes out. And I think it's sooner rather than later is what I hope. And what I would say is keep working hard. Be aggressive in your outreach to the teams that you really want to work for. And then, take an opportunity that, might be a leap of faith for you. I mean, for me, it was a leap of faith. I was a financial advisor, going to go work on Wall Street, and I took a $6 an hour telemarketing job on a 3-month guarantee, and it worked out. And I feel very lucky and blessed to have that. But it worked out because I was passionate about this industry. I love this industry. The note that I sent to my staff the other day was, I'm bummed as anybody else that sports aren't going on right now, and we don't get to watch what we all grew up loving. That's why I got into the industry. Why I stayed in the industry is because I love the people. I love going to work with these people. I love talking to Rick. I love learning. I love how we push each other right? We all compete, but we compete in a friendly way. We want to continue to make this industry as good as it possibly can be. And we need those young leaders with new thoughts, progressive thoughts of how the world is going to change and adapt in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 18 months, because a lot's going to change. So all of those people who are thinking about getting this industry, stay focused, stay the course, stay energized. There will be an opportunity for you.
And Rick, same question, advice for people trying to find their path in sports?
Do what Al said. The message and another, I think this is actually a moment of opportunity, because we're challenging our young staff. Like, if there was ever an opportunity to show your creativity and make your mark, it's right now. Okay. Because your job definition is a little bit of a white sheet of paper right now. Like, if you can come up with the great idea right now, and you can come up with something innovative that actually works, there's never been a better opportunity to stand out from the crowd. Like, this shouldn't be a woe is us, let's hunker down. This should be wow, I've just been given a chance to show what I can do. And ideas are not confined to our employees. Like, anybody can come up with that one idea and reach out and sell somebody on that idea. And I think for young people who are starting their career, if it was me as the 22-year-old in our organization right now, it'd be, holy cow, here we go. This is my chance. I'm gonna show everybody, what I'm made of, and show everybody that I can be creative and innovative and come up with something that nobody's thought of before. So.
And to build on that in terms of being innovative, trying to think of what no one's thought of before, we're SportTechie. I got to ask some tech-focused questions here. And guys, we were chatting about this a little bit before we went live here. Is this an opportunity for esports, for VR? Like, where are you guys seeing this experimentation being able to kind of take off potentially? Do you have your eye on anything that's just, I don't know, VR? We had a great quote yesterday. Like, VR has been on the precipice for 10 years, and if it's not going to hit this year, then it has no chance. Like, how do you both approach that? Al, do you have your team kind of scanning for new tech opportunities here? Are you leaning more into esports or any opportunities of that nature?
I don't know that this, I don't want to call it an event because it's ongoing, but I don't know if this, sort of crisis has changed our approach to a degree. Taylor, like, you and I talk quite a bit about this. We have a venture arm at the 49ers. We've invested in a lot of companies in the last, quote unquote, 3 or 4 years. We're constantly looking for those who are going to innovate and change. And I think we all need to be doing that on a daily basis, because that's what our audience is demanding. It's changing dramatically overnight. So for me, I think Rick made a really good point. I don't know that any idea is a bad one right now. I think, his idea that I'm gonna steal coming out of this is, what are we doing with some of our virtual training? We opened a fitness gym here, and I've been watching my family do hot Pilates at home in their living room through a virtual webcast, right? And so to me, there's so many things that could come out of this, Taylor. And I'm not the one. What I would say is, I'm not a technologist, but there's a ton out there, and all of them are eager and smart and looking for ways to change this industry. And what I would tell them is, reach out to the 49ers. If you got a tremendous idea, let us know. And if it's something that we think is ultimately going to be a game changer in the world of sports moving forward, great. But I don't know that this one thing or this one event has changed I don't think anyway, how the industry views sort of progressive innovation.
And Rick, I know we mentioned, it was like Monumental Sports with the Wizards. They'd done a NBA 2K game the other night. Is that something the Warriors are looking into and just trying to be creative in these times?
Yeah, we actually, a bunch of teams are getting on a call after this presentation to kind of talk about how we take that idea and blow it out in our own communities. I think had this pandemic not happened, I think, Taylor, you and I, even in a conversation we might have had weeks ago, I thought a lot of this conversation we might go toward like, what's the live presentation of our games going to look like going forward? How are they going to be distributed? How are people going to be consuming that? And I think at some level this has accelerated and given us an opportunity to really just that, accelerate our thinking about doing that. I think most of our RSNs have a lot of ideas in the works. I think we're going to come out of this having a greater willingness to try more things sooner. I think, just in general, how's that going to change? I think in our league, at least, we're headed toward you having a lot more control out of a personalization of your broadcast, of the form that you want to see it in, maybe different camera angles, maybe different commentary. Maybe even visually it looks different, and you're going to be empowered to make that choice. It's not going to be a one size fits all for every audience when you're watching an NBA game. So I know we with our regional sports network partner have kind of had a time right now where we can talk more about that and maybe agree on what the next 2 or 3 experiments we're going to have in our live game presentations. Because that, if we didn't have this right now, I think I would be telling you that at least in the NBA, the greatest challenge we have right now is as ESPN's subscriber base is faltering, as our RSNs are having fewer and fewer customers. Like, we have to find a new way to present our games than ABC, TNT, and ESPN. We may still be on those platforms, but we're going to be supplementing that with something going forward. And now is like an amazing opportunity when we're not having those games to pause and really focus on what kind of innovation can we bring to those broadcasts that's going to broaden the audience that finds us interesting.
I agree. Sorry, I was just jumping. I totally agree with what Rick said. I mean, even if you look at, one of our partners at Elevate, at the XFL, I mean, what they did on their broadcasts with ESPN and Fox, I mean, the audio inside the coach's ear, listening to the plays, real live interviews on the sideline. I mean, a lot of why I love what Vince and Jeffrey and Oliver did, because they took something, like Rick said, on white paper and said, how could we change, a telecast? And then we come out of this and say, man, that engagement was off the charts. And it didn't really lead to competitive balance issues. Like, it doesn't matter if we could hear a little bit of the communication between the coach and the player. And, I think sometimes we need leagues, or we need ideas like that to, frankly, sometimes, I joke a little bit that these leagues can be like ocean tankers. It's hard to kind of turn them around. And every once in a while, you need somebody to come along, like an XFL, or like what Rick's saying now, this crisis, to lead to change. I generally think what comes out of it is tremendous for the fans, right? Because what we're really thinking about at all times is how do we engage in a better way, right? How do we get more people to love our sport, watch our sport, love our athletes? And I think it's going to take our broadcast partners and our leagues to really think outside the box and use some new ideas. And I think when it happens, it's going to be really powerful.
I think that's well said. And Al, I wanted to bring up Elevate, which you did there. That's the other business you're focused on. We've talked to this point, Warriors, Niners for the most part. How does Elevate adapt in this time? What is that business looking like that you're the CEO of?
Man, it's been an unbelievable journey, Taylor. It's like a little under 2 years right now. So proud and humbled by our clients. We got over 145 employees, I think, in 14 states in the U.S. And working on a number of different projects. Quite a bit in the MLS. And look, that's been the interesting part of this. And I was talking to Rick the other day. It's the 49ers world is a little bit more stable because we're not in this, but I'm on calls every single day with a lot of our clients on the Elevate front. And certainly those leagues have been canceled. The MLS postponed, the MLS, the NHL, the NBA, actually the XFL got their season canceled. And those conversations are no different than what we're talking about today, which is, what do we do when we come back and what does that look like? In the XFL's case, it got canceled. What does year 2 look like? Because I thought year 1 was tremendous. There's a lot to build on. What does year 2 look like? But no different than all of us. It just depends on where you were in your sport as to what planning you're undergoing right now. And, all I can tell you is what I believe. No one can tell you what they know, because no one knows when this thing is going to start back up. But I'm encouraged by our clients. I'm inspired by the people that are running those organizations in unbelievable difficult times with their seasons literally stopped. And I certainly feel like Inter Miami, I love, Jorge Mas and David Beckham, and like love them to death. They've been fighting to get a team in Miami for so long. They were about to have the first game in their new stadium, and literally it got postponed. And so, that excitement of the staff, right? Everyone gets a little frustrated, a little down. And so our job at Elevate is to pick all those people up and to let them know it's going to be okay. And then once we get back going, we're going to need those people more than ever. And so, I don't know, I'm again, and if you look at what came out of 2008, and I'm not saying this is 2008, but I do think that there'll be a ton of investment in sports. There already was starting to be, and there's going to continue to be a ton of investment in renovations, in new builds, in innovation, in media, right? In all of the things that move this industry. I think there's going to be a ton of opportunities coming out of this thing. And at Elevate, we're looking to take advantage of whatever those are in alignment with our partners.
And guys, I'll get you out of here on this question because we just have a few minutes left. A lot of people in the sports industry look to you guys for leadership. We have a ton of people from around the globe tuning into this or watching it on demand. What would your closing thoughts be to them if you could just kind of send them one message during this time? And Rick, I'll start with you.
I just think we have to know and believe that there is a time beyond what we're experiencing right now, and we have to use this time to prepare for our better future. And it's not going to be our same future. It's going to be an adjusted future that's been enhanced because of what we've been able to learn over this period of time. And I hope everybody just stays safe.
Al, same question to you.
Yeah, just echo what Rick said. Stay safe, stay healthy. And, I think Rick made a good point around no matter where you're at in any of these organizations, you lead from the front. Everybody can be a leader during these times. And I've been really inspired by all of our staffs, both around the country and here in the Bay Area. And then, look, I'm one of those optimistic, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things. And so I hope to be high-fiving my good friend Rick in his arena here, sometime in the near future, because all of the people on the front lines have done such an amazing job getting us back to that moment. And I think it's going to be really powerful, and I can't wait to do it with everybody in the sports industry.
Well, Rick and Al, thanks so much for your time, and appreciate you guys sharing with us and getting up early in the morning to join us from the West Coast. It's worked out really well. And just to kind of close this out, because this is the last panel for our virtual state of the industry this year, thank you to the 6,000 plus attendees from over 50 countries. When we pivoted this from an in-person conference that was going to take place in New York to virtual, we had no idea what was going to happen. And so we've been really pleased with the outcome. And we hope we've provided a platform for people to come together, hear from folks like Rick and Al, and just try to communicate in a time when communication is really critical. So again, thank you. We're keeping the virtual conference open for another 3 hours until 3 p.m. Eastern. So attendees can continue to kind of virtually network and connect, and be on the lookout for more announcements from SportTechie about future events. And until then, stay safe and be well. And thanks for tuning in.